You ever wake up in the morning and think to yourself, oh no, I can't push out two Sheoldred videos in the same week? Yeah, me either. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com and we'll take a look at them after round one. Isaac J sent me a rather interesting request asking me to build a Pox deck around Braid's Arisen Nightmare. This is a rather interesting card. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card. So, conceptually, this kind of works in a Pox-like way, right? But there's a very important distinction between this and an actual Pox effect. An actual card like Pox or Smallpox is not optional. This card is optional. What this is frequently going to mean is that when you sacrifice something with Braids, you are converting it into a cantripping shock. You are going to do 2 damage and you are going to draw a card. So when I first sat down to brew around this card, I started doing it in a Pox way. And then once I realized that it's optional and most of the time it's just going to be 2 damage, I realized that this actually needs to go into a more aggressive deck, not necessarily a control deck like Pox. So I'm going to try to take advantage of this primarily using Bitter Blossom, and I've never seen this art before. Okay, this is cool. So Bitter Blossom allows us to make a token. What we are going to do is then sacrifice our token, putting our opponent into the situation where either like they lose a creature of their own or they lose 2 life, and I draw a card. And we're going to make sure that I don't run out of life for Bitter Blossom by playing Shadow Spear alongside a couple of big smacky smack creatures. And we're also going to be playing Sheoldred in this deck list. Now, Sheoldred plus Braids is pretty damn cute, right? The Braid makes the opponent lose 2 cards, and then I draw a card. When I draw a card, I gain 4 life. So kind of the conceptual idea with this deck is that we're going to try to be manipulating life totals, and we're going to try to keep the card drawing going. Because I'm playing Bitter Blossom and Ancient Tomb, I didn't think I could also fit Dark Confidant into the deck list. I think if you took it in a slightly different direction, you could also make Bob work, but I thought that was a little bit ambitious. Something that I considered doing but ultimately decided against was playing this as an Orzhov deck so that I could use Flagstones of Trocare to like sacrifice that, try to make my opponent sacrifice a land. If they don't, or when that land goes to the graveyard, I can just go and get a scrub land out of my deck and kind of move on. But I figured that like with 8 colorless sources in the deck already, I was probably pushing it as far as that goes. The mana-based stress, that is. I'm also playing 2 Retrofitter Foundries. They work well with the Urza Sagas to kind of go wide and create extra tokens. They're a mana sink when I run out of gas, and they're extra fuel for Braids. Converting 2 mana into 2 life and a card is pretty good. And if we can turn it into an Edict as well, that's kind of hot. As far as the sideboard goes, we've got the Leyline and Helm of Obedience combo, which if you're not familiar with it, Leyline of the Void sends everything to exile. Helm of Obedience exiles something or mills until you put something into your graveyard, which you can't do. So this mills out your opponent for, a 1 mana activation. And otherwise, there's just going to be a couple small adjustments. Let's see how this plays out. Note, this idea is entirely untested. This one is kind of brewed from scratch here. So we're probably going to realize pretty quickly that we have some glaring weakness. I'm trying to keep the Urza Saga package tight. Maybe I need a Pithing Needle. Maybe I need some other target in here. Let's just kind of jump into the games and see how they feel. If you're new here and you like what you see today, please consider subscribing. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. Oh boy. I'm going to keep this hand. I have to figure out how on earth I want to play it, though. I think that's actually tough. Because Braids Arisen Nightmare isn't actually that good on turn 1. I want that a little bit later. I kind of want to just play... Oh, my opponent mulliganed to 5. That probably just means Thoughtseize on turn 1, then. Okay. It became a lot less interesting after my opponent mulliganed to 5. Alright. Get there. Double Force of Will and Brainstorm. I'll take the Brainstorm. A little awkward for me. My Dark Ritual's not super good right now. But, like, this Sheoldred, assuming it resolves, will absolutely decimate my opponent. Ooh, they found a cantrip. Ooh, it is probably Doomsday. In which case, this Sheoldred is the nuts. Thoughtseize would be a really cool draw. Second Sheoldred is a really cool draw, so I just play one this turn and one next turn. I am worried that Braids isn't strong enough for my opponent to actually want to counter it. Alright, so let's attempt Dark Ritual. Go to 16, cast a Sheoldred, which should get both forces. Force pitching force, as expected. And I just resolve a Sheoldred next turn, which should be really hard to beat, especially with Braids as a follow-up play. Oh, that's Misty instead of Polluted Delta. Probably a small misplay on my opponent's end, since, like, I knew about this card. Oh, Reggie is also incredibly strong. I'm gonna play the Sheoldred first, though. This card just punishes the cantrips so hard. Yeah, auto concession there. Absolutely. Now my opponent mulliganed very deep there. So I am going to go ahead and assume that I am playing against Doomsday. I will be boarding in these 5 cards. I will be boarding out the Sudden Edicts, and then probably a Bitter Blossom or a Retrofitter Foundry. Board out a Retrofitter Foundry. I don't think I want the Leyline Helm combo here, because everything that just contributes to my opponent dying is good. Like, I know that sounds really stupid, but especially since my opponent is pretty likely to have their life total at some point over the course of a game. This is an okay opening hand. I don't like that the Urza's Saga is a disappearing land here. I don't like that I can't cast this opposition agent without top decking another land. I think I'm going to pitch this one. This is just objectively a stronger hand. I'll keep this one. I can use Urza Saga as my threat, so I think I toss back the Rotting Regisaur. It may be the Bitter Blossom, actually. Yeah, maybe it's actually the Bitter Blossom. Alright, there's a Street Wraith. There's another Street Wraith. And opponent making my job just ever so slightly easier. That is no shuffle. Ooh, an Oppo agent is obviously very strong here. I'm going to Thoughtseize before Inquisition in case I need to take a Force of Will. Wow, that's actually really tough. I think I'm supposed to take the Dark Ritual. That's the thing that could make my opponent cast Doomsday next turn, if Doomsday is currently on top of their library. Leaving them with Brainstorm makes my follow-up Inquisition slightly worse. But I think the speed matters here. Alright, there's the Scalding Tarn. Oh shit, my opponent casts the Brainstorm right now. I am happy enough about that. The whole Urborg opposition agent thing is kind of awkward here. I would really like to just draw a basic swamp this turn. Okay. If you were going to fetch, you should have done it while I was tapped out. Because if I had Dark Ritual here, I punish this fetch very hard. You're gonna Surgical Extraction my Thoughtseize. I am so good with that. I have Inquisition instead. Now, unfortunately, I think I need to play out my Urborg this turn, because I think I need my Urza Saga for a while. And I will be playing the Urborg out now, in case Daze is a relevant card on the other side of the battlefield. Oh, yeah. I'll take the Brazen Borrower here for sure. My opponent's got a Surgical and a Polluted Delta. I am about to put a world of hurt on them in various ways. The opposition agent coming into play is very strong. Ooh, did they find Doomsday as that draw step? No. Okay, they're just fetching now because they know about opposition agent. That's fine. Would I like to play opposition agent around Daze for the low cost of 2 life? Probably. I'll go ahead and cast this in my Opponent's upkeep. I think the points of life are relatively meaningless here. Okay, yep, and that's the quick concession for from the opponent. GG. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is a deck building website, and I've got my Zonksha EDH deck list pulled up here. In addition to just keeping track of, say, what cards you do and don't own, there's a lot more functionality here. You can see the chances of playing various cards on curve. You can take a look at your mana curve, the number of symbols in your deck, or you could even look at sample opening hands and even playtest with the deck itself. Alright, round 2, I'm keeping this opening hand. It's very good. I'll have a little bit of flexibility in how it plays out depending on what I see in the first turn cycle or so. Elves? They're potentially elves, could be Cloud Post. Regardless, it's probably good to just kill the Elvish Reclaimer on turn 1. Bitter Blossom Braids combo. Alright, let's fucking go. So we'll Chrome Mox. We'll imprint the Regisaur so that we can try to do the fun thing. And let's Sudden Edict my opponent. My next couple turns are a little awkward in terms of mana usage, but hopefully it kind of works out. Because, like, I want to play Bitter Blossom and then Braids the next turn. Alright, what are we doing? Another basic. Green Sun? Yeah, it is a Green Sun. And another Elvish Reclaimer. So I think I've just got to get the Bitter Blossom going for long-term prospects, but I don't like that this gives my opponent an opportunity to, like, fetch Gaia's Cradle. This is a cool engine, it's just very slow. Alright, so black mana confirmed. It is not surprising. Oh, we're actually getting damage in this turn. Alright, I will take 1, going to 19. And we'll see what gross thing my opponent can do to me next. Oh shit, it's a Boseiju. I mean, yeah, I'll pick up a new land. Play Dalthy Voidwalker into Braids while also playing Urza Saga. Alright. That's not bad. So Braids occurs. Alright, so this trigger happens. Happy enough to sacrifice a swamp here. So my opponent can sacrifice a land or lose 2 and I draw a card. Okay. I've gotten a card, as expected. The Sudden Edict is pretty good, though. Now I can Sudden Edict my opponent, take out the Dryad Arbor, attack for 6 damage, and make an Urza Saga Construct token. That's a lot of stuff. Although Elvish Reclaimer becoming a 3/4 could mean that Braids doesn't attack, which would be annoying. Oh, am I just eating a natural order here? Oh no, I'm eating a Green Sun. We gonna do a Rex Sage? Pull up my Urza Saga. Oh, no, we're going a slightly different route. Oh, Cradle is very good. Yeah, if opponent sacrifices their Dryad Arbor, it turns this into a 3/4, but means that they have 1 creature, so Sudden Edict clears this out. Okay. Braids or Dalthy Voidwalker. Going for the Braids. Means that Grist is dead. Oh wait, I have Dalthy Voidwalker. This doesn't actually grow. My bad there. Alright, and Urborg. Not interested in playing that right now. Ooh, I could get my own Grist. That's kind of hot. Alright, land drop. Sudden Edict, target you. Then I'll ship this at Grist to kill Grist. And now Grist is under Dalthy Voidwalker with a counter on it. So I can get one next turn if I decide that I want one. It's, like, definitely not bad. Alright, Urza Saga Construct token. A draw. Ooh, it's Retrofitter Foundry. So definitely worth using the 2 mana to make another token. Okay. Being a fetch in response here in case I have a Pithing Needle. Opponent found a Dryad Arbor. I'll find a Shadow Spear. I think this is what I like. Play Urborg, which does turn Cradle into a mana-producing land. Go ahead and make a creature here. I'll just attack for 6 right now. Opponent takes that. I'll now sacrifice Stealthy Voidwalker. Grab Grist. Cast Grist. Minus Grist. Sacrificing this unneeded servo token. Using that to destroy the Dryad Arbor. That was a cool turn. I enjoyed that a lot. Okay. So, question I have to ask myself here is, do I want Leyline Helm combo? Or do I just want to try to win this the fair way? I always have these 5 cards that I think I need to play. I don't think I like Rotting Regisaur in this matchup. It gets chump blocked very easily. And like there's like Wirewood, Elvish Visionary, bounce block lines that just mean that this thing eats away at my own hand. Bitter Blossom's slow, but it is very cute with Braids. I think conceptually I'm trying to be a control deck. Trying to utilize cards like Opposition Agent and Plague Engineer to kill my opponent. I don't think I'm a raw beatdown deck here. I think if I'm going to be lowering my opponent's life total less quickly, it becomes better to attempt this combo. I would have to board out 2 other cards. Probably board out one of these. Let's sort this by mana value at this point. Not sure what the other card I would board out is. I think I have to leave both of these for Urza Saga for assorted reasons. I board out one Sheoldred. So cool versus Glimpse Lines, though. One Chrome Mox? No, because I'm trying to get to 4 or 5 mana. 7 of that effect enough? 7 of that effect might be enough. Chrome Mox, Imprint, Opposition Agent. 2 mana after playing Swamp. 3-4 mana after Dark Ritual. 5-6 mana, double Opposition Agent on turn 1. This hand fucks. On it mulligan once as well. This is gonna sting. I don't feel bad about it. It's just 6 power on turn 1 that also shuts off a lot of stuff my opponent can do. Now, my opponent's Collector Oof that they have in hand is going to be pretty good versus my Chrome Mox, but I'm going to hope that my Opposition Agents are just better versus their deck, just generically speaking. Alright. Bullshit. And I am just going to do these right now. Alright. Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual. Opposition Agent. Opposition Agent. Your go. And it's just my hope that this really shuts down my opponent's deck. It would have been stronger on the play, obviously, but this still feels pretty good. Elvish Reclaimer is fine. Oh, that Gaia's Cradle is hot there. For sure. Now, I have to kind of decide whether or not I can continue to be the beatdown. I think I just bash in with both of these. Currently have the larger clock. And it would come at a very great cost if my opponent wanted to clear both of these out. Okay, opponent does not want to clear them out. I'll play a Swamp and pass. The Elvish Reclaimer is likely to remain a 1-2 for the remainder of this game. Okay, opponent played out Boseiju as a land. Oh, that sucks for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, this is a lot of damage. Really? Not attacking with Elvish Reclaimer? Okay. I mean, if you have something else cool, you have something else cool, but... Well, this is the entirety of the combo. I think if my opponent realizes, like, they can just activate this and kill me, I'm just dead. I continue to just, do my beatdown thing, and maybe I can Mize a win. That's, very strange, not attacking with Reclaimer last turn. It's so much more damage. Okay. It doesn't currently produce mana. Okay, that's 2 elves coming in. Definitely be done after declare blockers. Doesn't matter, but you know, little timing things, they can come up and matter. That is an Ancient Tomb. I am 1 mana away from a victory next turn. A lot of this is going to depend on how my opponent plays this. So My opponent attacks in with all 4 creatures. I'll be at 5 after doing this. I will take 3 damage. I will be at 2. So I think I need my opponent to mess up here. Collector Oof is a problem. Not that the elves aren't. I didn't really expect my opponent to be able to put up a win so quickly without searching at all. The Allosaurus Shepherd that they drew was very good. The Cradle gave a lot of acceleration as well. That's a good set of attacks for my opponent because both of these have to be blocked. Well, actually, no, I guess that's a bad attack from my opponent, right? Because both of those are obligatory blocks, so the 3 damage was free. Yeah, that was probably not great. I don't really know what gets me out of this situation from here. I guess a Plague Engineer is good. Sudden Edict will not do it. Will concede. Alright. Do I want anything different on the play? The play I value Inquisition a little higher. This is probably okay. Possible Rotting Regisaur is better than some of the other stuff that I'm doing right now. Okay. This hand has both sides of my combo. Put Leyline of the Void into play on turn 1. On turn 1, I just play a Thoughtseize. I have 2 mana on turn 2. 3 mana if I draw a land. I need to get to 5 mana, though. I don't think I'm actually interested in this hand. It's close, but another awkward hand. I just play a Sheoldred on turn 2. Just use that as my clock. And this one's awkward. Physically doesn't have enough mana to activate Helm. I don't have black to get Voidwalker into play in the first place. I don't know if this wins. I think I'm going to keep it, though. This is a hand that can become better relatively easily. So let's do a Swamp and pass. And this represents an opposition agent. My opponent has not played around. Oh fuck, Thoughtseize taking my Dark Ritual is so good. That essentially turns my hand into a 0-card hand. My Urza Saga will also have a disappearing land problem. That's rough. Elvish Spirit Guide, sure. Well, Chromox is really good here. We are officially off the Sheoldred plan. And we are on the Leyline Helm plan. Now, if I draw any black card a couple turns from now, I can use Urza Saga to get that 4th mana. See, that's scary. That's scarier. Plague Engineer. Another Helm. Well, I don't really have choices or decisions here, so here we go. Opponent drops to 14. I can die very quickly here. There's a Dryad Arbor. Cradle is tapping for 4. Alright, there is Fiend Artisan. Makes my Urza Saga significantly worse. My tokens have a harder time getting through. I'm potentially okay if I draw Ancient Tomb. But this alone is just 15 damage next turn. Oh. You attacked into that and gave up Allosaurus Shepherd? That feels wrong. That feels very wrong. Alright. That doesn't even grow Fiend Artisan there. Ancient Tomb! Chromox is kind of a dead draw there. I'll go ahead and activate this. There's a Construct token. I think I need the Trample and the Lifelink. I think that's what I need. So now the next question is, do I just play Chromox to increase my power by 1 so that I attack in for 7 this turn? I think so. I think the Chromox is off next turn anyway. And I don't think I get to activate Shadow Spear or whatever next turn. I think every single point of damage is just relevant here. I don't know if I fully articulated that thought or not, but I am being wary of Collector Oof. How much mana does my opponent have? 5, 6, 7, 8. That is not enough for Fiend Artisan for like a Crater Hoof. And luckily, this Fiend Artisan isn't growing because I have Douthy Voidwalker. 5 off Cradle. Opponent could Shriekmaw my Construct token. We're getting a Fiend Artisan activation of some kind. Sacrificing a Dryad Arbor. Our X is 4. What is 4? My opponent, like, mess up and mean to do 5? Oh, no, okay. They just didn't know exactly what they were going for. Sure. Okay. Is the Douthy Voidwalker going, or is a Construct token going here? Feels like Construct token, but I've been wrong before. Okay, yep, it is a Construct token. So those are 1/2 blockers. If I equip Shadow Spear, I have a 5/5. Means that I can deal 1 point of damage to something. Oh, that's kind of gross. Okay. I'll play out an Urza Saga. Go ahead and equip this here. Alright, and that's good enough to win the match. Are we 3-0? No, we're 2-0. Good stuff. Alright, this is round 3. This hand has all the mana in the world, but nothing to do with it. Aha! I'm going to assume that this hand improves enough over time that I can reasonably keep this. I think I have to keep these exact 6 cards for me to justify this as being a keep. We're going to hope that our opponent isn't playing like an expressive iteration deck. Ho 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 ho! Alright, so we are playing against a Thassa's Oracle combo deck here. Also, I'm supposed to take the Brainstorm over the Divining Witch here, but I'm just going to take the Divining Witch. So this card is... I guess I can do this while my opponent takes their turn. So this card is used just naming some card that is not in my opponent's deck to empty their library, and then they can Thassa's Oracle once their library is empty for the win. So that is a shuffle with the old Ponderino there. And I'm going to deal a lot of damage to myself here. I'm going to dismiss that as I'm about to look at a fresh set of cards, and I am playing this around Daze. Oracle, Malevolent Hermit, Brainstorm, Daze. I don't care about Prismatic Ending right now. I might in the future. I think I'll just take the Thassa's Oracle and continue to try to keep them off of the, like, combo pieces their deck has to offer. So, potential issue here is that, like, my opponent can just play this and start, like, beating me with a 2-1, and that's a little awkward for me. Like, because I use the Sudden Edict, and then they just play the back half of it, which, you know, is also a 2-2. The next game that I have to play is, does my opponent still have Daze? And I won't really know the answer to that for a little while. It's basically only relevant if I draw Sheoldred this turn. A shuffle with that Ponder. Okay. So, we've got mana. Daze is no longer really relevant. Opponent has Malevolent Hermit. And let's go ahead and take that out of play just to use my mana. Alright, good stuff. Alright, that's not what I am looking for, unfortunately. So this is the part of the game where we're going to see, like, my opponent's cantrips shine, while I am drawing these Chrome Mox and Dark Ritual type cards that, like, are never going to become good in this game. Every time my opponent draws a blank, like a Daze, they can eventually draw a Brainstorm and kind of shuffle those back into their library. Also, what's the backside of this called? Disturb? Oh, it's just another one. Sure. My opponent just hacking me to death with a couple of 2/2s is, like, very real right now, given how badly I've flooded out here. Like, I am very legitimately in trouble. I think I kept a hand with 3 mana sources, double Thoughtseize, Sudden Edict, and then drew 4 mana sources in a row. So, like, while I kept this hand hoping that it would improve by drawing a threat of any nature, you know, the Rotting Regisaurs, the Sheoldreds, that sort of stuff, it just did not happen here. Alright. Yeah, very much in danger of just losing to generic, air quotes, bad creatures. Okay, this is sort of thing that I need here. I think I play Chrome Mox and Dark Ritual here, because I don't see myself needing those in the future. I think I just play those so that if my opponent still has the days, it doesn't cost me 2 life from Ancient Tomb. Okay, we've got a Brainstorm in response, which can look for a Force of Will. I'm gonna go ahead and dismiss these cards. Are we resolving? Okay, we are resolving. That doesn't mean that I feel good about the situation. Opponent has a Death Toucher, so I can't really attack with Sheoldred. And the backside of this flies, right? Yeah, the backside of this flies. So my opponent will be able to still pressure me beyond, like, what Sheoldred is capable of doing in terms of life gain. But I believe in Sheoldred. My more immediate issue is that my opponent can just assemble both of their combo pieces, Divining Witch and Thassa's Oracle, and I can just lose to that. And what's the other piece called? Thought Lash, I believe. Like, that's very real as well. Okay, there's the Witch. Okay, no attacks. That is another Sheoldred. I guess I attack to trade with Baleful Strix and then play another one? That's kind of messed up. But it's what I'm doing. They also might just block with Malevolent Hermit. Nope, alright, it is the Strix. That's fine. Play Sheoldred. And we'll see if I die to the combo here. So, when you do this, you exile the top 6 cards of your library, reveal cards from the top until you reveal a card with the chosen name. You put that card into your hand. So what my opponent can do is, at end step, they can turn one of their cards into Thassa's Oracle, and then on their next turn, they can, name nonsense with the other one and file in Thassa's Oracle. And that's going to be kind of hard for me to stop with no resources available to me. Like, there's some degree of risk, like one Thassa's Oracle is already gone. Like, they can technically hit 3 of them in the top 6 cards and lose, but I don't really see that happening. Alright, I will absolutely attack with Sheoldred and crash in for my 4 points of damage. Oh, no. Okay. So, well, I still get 2 points of damage. That's the good news. If I cast Sudden Edict to this one, just very easily goes. That's fine. I'm not even going to cast the Sudden Edict yet. Alright, so this is the Divining Witch activation. 8 cards entered the reveal zone, and then my opponent got Thassa's Oracle. Which should mean that I am dead. This Sudden Edict is not really doing me any favors. That's fine. Okay, so this is going to be the Vial activation for Thassa's Oracle. And with that trigger on the stack, my opponent activates their Divining Witch. And I will die. I'm basically just waiting here to see if there's any spice, and it seems like the answer is no. Not actually that many prismatic endings, huh? Okay, so my opponent's not actually that great at dealing with permanents. Alright. Understood. So, I really like Plague Engineer. Stops Divining Witch from doing its thing. I really like Opposition Agent and Inquisition of Kozilek as well. I do not believe this is going to be a matchup for these cards. Sudden Edict lines up pretty poorly against the Malevolent Hermit. Rotting Regisaur lines up pretty poorly versus Baleful Strix, though. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is a Leyline matchup. Like, do I want a combo finish? Because as this game goes long, I'm scared. I would have to sideboard out an absolute shit ton of cards. Like, I'd have to do something that maybe looks like this? That's 65. Not play Rotting Regisaur? What does this look like? A lot of 4s. I don't need double Retrofitter Foundry. Oh, get rid of that. The thing about my aggressive elements like Rotting Regisaur and Braids is that like my opponent can play Thought Lash, which effectively gives them a ton more life. But the thing about the Helm of Obedience is that it's kind of bad versus the front side of Malevolent Hermit. Maybe I keep Sudden Edict or two in the deck. Get rid of another Retrofitter Foundry. I don't really feel like this is an Urza's Saga matchup. But I'm very unsure of like how I've boarded here. Well, this is real good if I draw more mana, and unplayable if I don't. I think it's a keep. I think Sheoldred goes back for being expensive. Right. Go Leyline. I'm gonna play Swamp, and I'm gonna Dark Ritual Opposition Agent in my opponent's upkeep. That plays around Force of Negation, which my opponent potentially could have brought in. And I just don't want to give my opponent the opportunity to just play a fetch land and pass. Like, I just want to guarantee get my opponent stuck on resources here. Some portion of the time. My hand is not good, and I need to buy that time. Oh my god, why? Alright. The good news is, my opponent is not going to have a lot of mana. Wow, 2 basics in hand is brutal. I basically have to take Source of Plowshares here, otherwise I lose the opposition agent and this land becomes live, which gives my opponent access to black mana. That is rough. So, not expecting to win this one. The Aether Vial plus double basic land in opener was not what I needed to see on the other side of the battlefield for this hand to work out. Now, maybe I just rip mana sources off the top of the deck for my rest of my game, and I just, like, win via Helm combo. But I'm not really expecting that to happen. Alright. In we go with Opposition Agent, which is never going to get to attack again until Baleful Strix is dealt with in some capacity. I don't think you fire off the Brainstorm yet, but I've never played their deck. I don't know for sure. Okay, no end of turn Swords to Plowshares, which is nice. Third basic, rough. They just get to... Yikes. Alright, Opposition Agent does not get to attack. My opponent gets to put in Baleful Strix or Divining Witch at end of turn. Probably Baleful Strix. It can be Divining Witch if they have a black source in hand already. Alright, let's always yield to that. I'm at the point where I think I've lost this game, but I definitely can't concede, because there's worlds where my opponent just, like, doesn't find the black mana for a Divining Witch. Okay. Unfortunately, my opponent can just, like, Violet in response, so I don't actually get to take it here. Or they can just have 2. Sure. Alright. We're chilling. I'm super dead to my opponent finding black mana. And this is my opponent's 4th land that they don't have to fetch for. It's statistically extremely unlikely. I'm not really mad about it. It's like I'm not dead yet, but I like, holy shit, do I need to draw some mana? That's some mana. Like, that's a very, very, very good draw. I am thinking about whether or not I'm just supposed to play Douthie Voidwalker off Dark Ritual. So my opponent has Force of Will, land, 1 unknown card. If I give them more time, they can just hold Force of Will until they have a blue card or another land to either hardcast it or pitchcast it. I might be better off just trying to kill them with Douthie Voidwalker. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't know that this works, but it gives me a 5-turn clock. Seems like they have a blue card. Alright, it has resolved. I've got a theoretical 5-turn clock. This is definitely stressful. Okay. I get another turn. Douthie Voidwalker crashes in. Opponent goes to 11. Nothing at end step. Are we just passing the turn again? Please just pass the turn again. Okay, that's fine. That's basically like passing the turn. Okay, yeah, I get another turn here. I have some absolute bangers in hand now, don't I? Opponent will drop to 8 from this attack. I've got a few attack steps to go still. I assume we're going to have a Violet 2 and another Violet 1. Oh, I am wrong. I don't remember seeing 3-drops in game 1. What could that be, like a Plague Engineer? Recruiter? Crew name? Alright. Cool. Gonna attack in with Douthy Voidwalker yet again. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, it is a Plague Engineer, so you can name Douthy or Rogue, yep. Alright, so my clock changes here. I now require 3 more attacks instead of 2 more attacks. And I have to keep passing my turn. Oh, are you also a rogue? Oh yeah, you're also a rogue. Alright, so now I've got 1 at 2, 1 at 3. Another Plague Engineer would actually be awkward, right? Because it would kill Opposition Agent, giving my opponent access to black mana. Alright, what are we looking at? Feels like Strix. It is Strix. Alright, so now we're reaching the point where I am getting attacked back. I absolutely cannot block here. Okay, I can play another Opposition Agent, which is cool. We'll go ahead and just swing in with the Douthy Voidwalker. I don't think I want my opponent to know about the second Opposition Agent, so I don't think I'm going to play that immediately. Because there's some worlds where my opponent attacks in a way that allows me to sneak in lethal next turn. Like if they just swing all of their... Well, I guess they can't swing all of their creatures in. Alright. I've allowed them to hardcast Force of Will, though, by hitting that land drop. I guess that's a thing. Yeah, I'll just take all that damage. That's fine. Opponent goes to 11. I'll attempt an end of turn Opposition Agent, which probably just gets Force of Willed. I wonder if it was actually a mistake in waiting to cast that. Mox to play Sheoldred this turn is incredibly strong. Even Force of Will to protect it if I feel like that's a good idea. I think that means doing this pre-combat. Yeah. Mox, Imprint Leyline, cast Sheoldred, Force of Will, putting my opponent to 3. Oh wait, shit, these... Because Leyline and Douthy Voidwalker are both in play, these are not going to exile with void counters on them. Okay. I think I just attack for 2 here. I don't think I risk losing the game to like a Baleful Strix or something here. I've got my opponent dead next turn. Probably 2 different ways. This puts my opponent at 1. Okay, there is another Divining Witch. Yep, so very glad I did not attack with Opposition Agent there. And we'll see what happens this turn. Okay. That was a slog. Alright. Now I get to potentially mix up my sideboarding again. So, I did kind of get stuck on mana that game. I don't think that means that the Leyline Helm combo is bad. In fact, like, I know my opponent has taken the Malevolent Hermits out of their deck to make room for other things. I don't think I go back to the Bitter Blossom Braids plan, specifically because I know my opponent has brought in Plague Engineer. Do I want more Sudden Edicts this game? Kind of, but I don't know what I would cut, honestly, is kind of my problem. I don't really view any of my cards as cuttable currently, except maybe like going off the entire Leyline Helm combo or cutting a Sheoldred, and I think the Sheoldred's very good for the games where the board gets locked up like that last one did. This is an unexciting hand, but I believe that I will be keeping it. My opponent has mulliganed once already. They're down a very substantial amount of clock, but not enough that I think the clock is relevant. Okay. Ponderin. I want it to be Ponder, not Aether Vial. Fuck. The Vial just makes my opponent's lines just significantly easier, and I hate seeing another Chromox as my draw. So let's Inquisition. 100% about taking the Divining Witch here. That card is very potent, and Fortunately, I do not have another black card right now, so I can't just, like, imprint again with Chrome Mox here and start going to town and play a second discard spell immediately. Alright. Let's see what my draw step yields. Sheoldred. A lot of worlds where I put that under Chrome Mox next turn for, like, Urza Saga purposes. I can't play Sheoldred next turn without drawing another black card or without not casting Inquisition. And I very much want to cast Inquisition. I think I'm just going to play out Swamp. Yeah, I think I'm just going to play out Swamp and Inquisition my opponent. I will leave them with the Brainstorm. I'm just going to take the Thassa's Oracle and, like, have no risks there. The Thassa's Oracle doesn't do a ton without a Divining Witch, but I want my opponent to have to draw both A and B here. Like, I want them to, like, I want to force them to drag this game on, because if I drag this game on, like, these 4-drops are very potent and can do extremely strong and warping things to the game. Not to mention, like, my Urza Saga as well. I will happily take one from a Baleful Strix. That is not a problem. I am at 19. My opponent is going for the fetch. Troubleland's fine. A Dark Ritual. That's not bad. Alright, so there's Urza Saga. Go ahead and Chrome Mox, imprint the Dark Ritual, and slam a Sheoldred. Okay, the opponent has a Swords to Plowshares. That's fine. Like, I've got a like, the Urza Saga can do good stuff. But I'm really hoping that I don't even have to just use the Urza Saga at all. Like, I would love to just draw, like, Dalthy Voidwalker, Leyline, something like that, and just be able to assemble that combo instead. Because, like, I lose the first Urza Saga token to Baleful Strix, which, while it's not a problem, it's annoying. Okay, cool. There's another Helm. Isn't super potent right now. Just going to pass the turn here rather than play out a Helm preemptively. I was thinking about playing Chrome Mox out, specifically for if my opponent Prismatic Endings my Chrome Mox and then ticks Vial up to put a Plague Engineer in. But that kind of feels like it's going a little bit deep in a way that's probably not worth it. Alright, there's another Sheoldred, which is great. I don't think I'm going to play that immediately, though. Alright, let's make the construct. Find the Shadow Spear. Do I want to imprint the Sheoldred to equip Shadow Spear this turn? Not really. I think I'll just make this trade now. Like, I can mine more value out of my cards by attacking with a construct that's equipped with Shadow Spear, but I don't think the Lightning Helix is really worth that. Right, I assume this stays at 2. Alright, and we're chilling. Okay, there's another land drop from my opponent. Alright, good stuff. I think I just attack with this as a 3/3 and then play Sheoldred. So maybe I'm supposed to play Sheoldred pre-combat? That way I know if there's a Baleful Strix ahead of time. I could see that. Alright. Back for 3. This is a lot of power on board. I'm going to be attacking for probably 9 or 10 next turn. And then, like, there's the Sheoldred damage and life gain as well. So, like, in no capacity is this game over, but it's definitely reaching scary territory. The Brainstorms and Ponders that my opponent have are pretty unattractive now. That is an Ancient Tomb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like it. I will go ahead and pay 2 life to play out a Helm of Obedience. I will happily play out a Naked Chrome Mox here. Printing no cards. Then attempt an equip on my Construct token. This is an attack for 10 damage. Will put my opponent to 3. Damage from Sheoldred will put my opponent to 2, meaning that they cannot actually fetch. Alright, that is a Divining Witch, which is scary, obviously. That gives my opponent access to a Thassa's Oracle. They are at 1. They cannot fetch. I guess if they have Thassa's Oracle in hand currently, they win. Oh, I've gotten the GGs. Ow. But they have the win? Or are they just going to mill themselves for style? Alright, they have revealed Thassa's Oracle. They have 35 cards remaining in deck. And we get the match win. That was a grind fest. We're 3-0 though. Okay, I have an opening hand of Magic the Gathering cards. I think it's a keep. It's a weird one. It's turn 1 swap Retrofitter Foundry, turn 2 Urza Saga, activate Retrofitter Foundry, turns 3 and 4 make construct tokens. Although I could pivot and play early Rotting Register and play Urza Saga on turn 3 instead. We'll kind of see what I draw. It's weird to keep a hand that air quotes doesn't have a turn 1 or 2 play, because I don't really consider this like a impactful play at all. Although if we like a prismatic ending or something on it, like that would be cool. Ooh. Ooh. Uh-huh. Oh shit. Okay. That's a turn 1 Archon of Cruelty. That's rough. That's rough. I have 4 Sudden Edicts. I'll get rid of Rotting Regisaur. Alright. So now Grief happens. It'll take my Sheoldred. And I basically just left myself with mana. Alright. No, there's not really a point in playing out the Urza's Saga here. Like, the tokens just get sacrificed to the Archon of Cruelty trigger. I think swamps are more valuable than Urza's Saga in this game right now. Just need persistent mana that is gonna stick around. And if my opponent has any other reanimation spell, they then protect the Archon from Sudden Edict, which was my out. So now I don't have outs, and I am happy enough conceding. It's unfortunate, because I think we're pretty good at this matchup. I think we're even better after sideboarding. So a Retrofitter Foundry can go. I am not having the sorts of matchups where Braids is good. Give me a slow, dirtily control deck, and I will keep this in all day. But like, this matchup is so defined by hate cards that I think I just have to let that combo go. It's also possible that I need to sideboard out Rotting Regisaur so that my opponent can't reanimate it. Because that's a problem. Like, I can board out the Rotting Regisaurs and 1 Sheoldred, leaving myself relatively creature light, and just intending on winning with Helm combo in most games. Leaves me with 11 creatures, plus Urza Saga, plus Helms as ways to win. I think that's fine. I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, we could discuss it, but I think it's just no. Okay. Well, it's not a hard no. This is more of a little bit of a whimper no. I think I keep this one and just try to get my opponent with Opposition Agent. Drawing back Sheoldred. Alright. Swamp pass. I really wanted my opponent to have a fetch line there. Game got very hard because of that. Yeah, that is Archon of Cruelty in the yard. We are in full-on danger territory. Alright. Inquisition, target you. Hope there's only 1 reanimation spell. Oh shit, there's no reanimation spells. There is, however, a Wear Tear and a Serenity. Just take the looting? Maybe just take the looting here. And I kind of awkwardly play out Urborg, because I know my Urza Saga can just be destroyed very easily for a Lotus Petal and an extra mana beyond that. Yeah, this is scary. I don't think that I kill my opponent before they beat me. Like, I think they can pretty easily, if they want to, just flashback Faithless Looting and go to town that way. Alright. Opponent's at 14. I expect this Urza Saga to get blown up in response to this trigger. No, they didn't. Okay, that is another Faithless Looting. I think I'm dead if they find a reanimation spell. I'm going to try to attack them to the range where it can't be reanimate anymore. Alright, I will respond to Thoughtseize by playing another opposition agent. You may take my Helm. 2 out of 12. I attack for 6, which means reanimate will not be an out as of next turn. Alright, this is going to be air on Urza's Saga. I attack for 6. 2 out of 6. This is your turn. Like, if you have it this turn, you have it. If you don't, I have the win on board. And I don't think flashing back Faithless Looting gets there in most worlds. Because my opponent would need Lotus Petal, 2 mana card, which is extremely unlikely. Okay. So I know about the Serenity plan, which makes the Helm kill a little worse. It makes Shadowspear, Retrofitter Foundry, Urza Saga a little bit worse. I think I'm going to pull Retrofitter Foundry from the deck. I play one Braids? I don't know. Maybe I keep this so that I can go like wide of a threat or something. Bitter Blossom's good against Grizzlebrand. Bad. Well, air quotes good against Grizzlebrand. Maybe I just keep the Retrofitter Foundry so that I have 2 reasonable Urza Saga targets. In case I draw 1 or 1 is Thoughtseized. Definitely feel weird about the current situation though. This one is a no from me. How's this one? Not great either. Like, the double Chrome Mox situation is kind of what's tough about this. Like, I can put Shadowspear back in deck, play Urza Saga, and like a Thoughtseized or an Inquisition on turn 1. And I'm kind of priced into taking a Serenity. I'm also priced into throwing away one of the discard spells. I think I'd rather go to 5. Not a great 5-card hand. I will go to 4. There are fucking Leylines in my deck, right? Yeah, there are Leylines in my deck. This is an incredibly slow hand. Like, it's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 question mark. I just think on the draw this is pretty rough. Like, I really want a Leyline. I think on 4 I keep this though. Because in the world where my opponent has kept a hand that has like Serenity or Wear Tear, expecting me to mulligan to Leyline, Douthie Voidwalker dodges some of that stuff. I'm going to keep this on 4. I'm not happy about it. This goes back. I think this still goes back. And I'm not sure if I keep like land or Shadow Spirit to just equip to Douthie Voidwalker. I think I'm going to keep land. I'll be obviously very unhappy about this. Alright. How bad is turn 1 for me? Bad. So I now essentially have a 0-card hand. We'll see what I top deck, but I basically need Douthie Voidwalker as my draw step to have a reasonable game. And if a creature goes into the graveyard this turn, life's real bad for me. Alright, that's Grizzlebrand into the yard. So top deck Douthie Voidwalker doesn't really do it anymore. Gonna play out Ancient Tomb. And let's see if my opponent makes a creature this turn. Oh shit, they're not. Okay. So now I have my first choice of the game. Helm or Sheoldred. If I play Helm and I top deck Douthie Voidwalker or Leyline, I win next turn. But I think I am supposed to play out Sheoldred in the face of my opponent's threat in graveyard, specifically being Grizzlebrand. Alright. If I win on a Moldifor versus Reanimator without Graveyard Hate, that feels pretty damn good. Ooh, that is a Reanimate on Grizzlebrand. My opponent cannot draw 7 due to Sheoldred. Alright, I've got an Inquisition. I think I just leave that Sheoldred in play. I guess I cast the Inquisition this turn. Specifically, trying to take a Wear Tear effect out of my opponent's hand. Hell yeah. That is success. And I'll play out the Helm. And I don't think I attack. I don't want to trade when my opponent has multiple animate deads in hand. I just want to leave this in hand, put my opponent to 5. Yeah, I think I just want to leave this in play. Alright, opponent goes to 5. And I think I am intending on activating Helm of Obedience for all of my mana next turn. And seeing what happens. Alright. I will attack my opponent for 4. Putting them to 8. When do I want to do this? Probably draw step in case I hit grief. I think draw step. So you lose 2. Go to 6. I activate Helm of Obedience for X equals 6. Wow, I did not hit a creature. Really expected to hit there. Alright, I go to 4. Opponent goes to 13. I hit Urza Saga. Alright. So, I am dead on board to Grizzlebrand, which means I should activate this, including the Ancient Tomb mana. Alright. In we go. Opponent goes to 9, which is really 7. Oh, shit. That stop. Okay. Opponent goes to 7. Draw step. Helm target you. 7 looks at a creature. Anything except grief is fine. Hell yeah. I wish I had a little bit more life so that I could activate Grizzlebrand and then do, like, something really fucking cool, Sheoldred, afterwards. That's not where I'm at. Alright. Block Grizzlebrand. We each gain 7. Now, opponent can just play, like, land, animate dead. Okay, they've got an Entomb. Or an Archon of Cruelty. Seems good. I'm a little bit insulated against that, because I can make an Urza Saga token. Hit for 4. Opponent goes to 10. Opponent goes to 8, which is a very important number, because now Reanimate is no longer on. Hell yeah. Urza Saga Construct token. Draw card for turn. Gain 2. Make another Urza Saga Construct token. Retrofitter Foundry or Shadow Spear? Shadow Spear. Okay. Oh my gosh, folks. That is a win on a mull to 4 versus Reanimator without playing Graveyard Hate. And I believe we're also playing for a trophy now. Is that right? That is right. Man, these double Chromox opener hands that I've drawn a whole lot of tonight have been kind of rough. Or are they with Braids, though? I can technically convert that into a different card if Braids lives. But it's really hard for me to use the first Chromox effectively. I don't know. It's tough. I think I'm just gonna mull it. Try to find something safer. Okay, we're going to 5 then. This hand is going to be a keep. I put 2 cards back. Sudden Edict, I think, goes back. And I think Chromox goes back. And then I'll kind of adjust my play patterns from here. I've got Urborg Ancient Tomb, so I don't have to deal myself damage with lands if I don't want to. Although Wasteland would be very good against me. Okay, that's a great draw. So this is a Dark Ritual situation, and I'm going to power out both of these cards. Ooh, we are going to see a Brainstorm in response, presumably. Yep. And a Daze, which is very good after my double mulligan. So it looks like we're going to play against bad guy Blue-Red Delver for the 5-0 here. Which I'm not the biggest fan of after a double mulligan, but generally speaking, the matchup's probably okay. Like, having Leyline and Douthie Voidwalkers both is a lot. Turn's tough. I think I jam Thoughtseize right now. Holy shit. That's aggressive for Delver. Wow. Okay. Fire Blast. Double Chain Lightning. We straight up might not be playing against traditional Blue-Red Delver. We might be playing against, like, a burn deck that has blue. Is the top card of my opponent's deck a blue card? Because the answer is no, I just take a Chain Lightning, and And then I resolve Sheoldred next turn. And it is a bitch to deal with. If the answer is yes, I really need to take that Force of Will right now. I think I'm going to try to high roll here, because I'm definitely on the back foot. Let's take a Chain Lightning. And I'll know based on the Delver flip. Did not fucking successfully high roll there. I really needed that Sheoldred to, like, stick. And, like, either way, I potentially left my opponent with something that deals with it. Oh, wow. Reggie. I try to get Reggie Force of Willed so that Sheoldred can live. That makes sense to me. I can just tap that for black. I know the exact contents of my opponent's hand. Oh shit, Reggie resolved. Okay. Brings me to 9. This is scary. Alright. Ooh, opponent is going to cast the EI. So there are worlds where my opponent misses on blue mana. This is awkward though, because like this is 7 total mana. Or 7 total damage. So if I take 2 from Ancient Tomb, I'm in trouble. Let's discard Dalthy Voidwalker and hope to draw another land. That is another land. Alright. Alright, get in there with Rotting Regisaur. And then play a Sheoldred. Both of those for regular black. I cannot play around days here. I'm gonna be force pitch whatever card. You had a fucking daze and I was tapped out. That was explicitly a bad play. Alright. So I'm dead next turn. Oh. Shit, okay, I'm dead this turn. Wow. Okay. Yeah, my opponent's deck is closer to a burn deck than anything else. Wild. Alright, I am interested in Leyline Helm. I am interested in IOK. I'm probably not interested in the rest. Maybe to Plague Engineer. I think my Thought Seizes and Bitter Blossoms both need to come out. I can't be losing life. Then there's Braids. For Price of Progress, like, luckily, I do have, like, a dozen swamps. Let me look at that, actually. Yeah, okay. So, greater than 50% of my lands are basics. Probably don't need 2 Retrofitter Foundries. I trim a Braids. Yeah, so, unfortunately, I don't know how much of the, like, Dragon Rage Channel or Murktide Regent stuff my opponent has. Like, I don't know if there's Monastery Swiftspears in there. I just don't have that sort of information based on the game that I saw. And, like, that changes my evaluation of Plague Engineer specifically. If my opponent does have, like, Dragon Rage Channelers, then, like, Leyline or maybe Dalthy Voidwalker plus Plague Engineer kills that stuff. If my opponent is going to attempt, like, mutually assured destruction via Price of Progress, though, like, the pressure Braids represents is nice. I think I'm gonna keep Braids here. Okay. I can straight up attempt a turn 1 Sheoldred if I would like with this hand. I can also just attempt a turn 2 kill with this hand. I can also just play turn 1 Swamp, Dalthy Voidwalker, Inquisition in some order. Maybe I YOLO on turn 2 Sheoldred. Just play Swamp Inquisition on 1. And have more options on turn 2. I think I like that better. I think I'm going to keep the hand. And this hand is hard to play, though. I think this is right, though. I just take the Brainstorm here and resolve Sheoldred on turn 2. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. I can remove this draw step stop. I don't expect to need that. Alright. Delta is out of that hand. A Leyline. I believe that is currently the least valuable card in this hand. Let's send that away. Dark Ritual. And if my opponent's card, like, draw for turn is Daze, like, so fucking be it. Okay, it was. Cool. I mean, that obviously fucking sucks for me. Okay. Lightning Bolt in my face. In theory, the rest of my hand's still okay, though. Like, my opponent just, air quotes, wasted their lightning bolt, so it can't kill Douthie Voidwalker now. So I've got that going for me. And if my opponent uses the graveyard as a resource, like, come on. For real? Wow, going to my face instead of at Douthie Voidwalker. Okay. Well, that is a decision that is about to be extremely punished. Whip Douthie Voidwalker. 4/3 lifelinker crashes in. Alright, good stuff. I think it was incredibly greedy to not kill Douthie Voidwalker there. Ooh, Urza Saga. Alright, this game feels over. Alright, there's Urza Saga. I'm fine with casting this into days. Like, there's some unknown cards over here, but, like, if this resolves, cool. If this doesn't resolve, also cool. Right? Like, this Douthie Voidwalker is killing my opponent, as is. Okay, there's a second Blind Miracle. Okay. I mean, that's annoying, but I still think I very much have the upper hand with active Urza Saga. Oh, shit. I know my opponent has a Price of Progress as one of their cards in hand. I think it's pretty likely that my opponent has counter spells. I think I'm just going to pass the turn here. So the reason to play Sheoldred is so that I'm less bad versus something like a Meltdown specifically. Alright. Take a critter. Other Helm's not fantastic. I'll go 1-2. You like to Price of Progress here? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, this is full on a burn deck. And I'm playing against blue-red burn for my trophy. They're on the play. 2 miracles, though. Opponent's deck list is spicy. I do respect the spice. I think I'm submitting as is. I have some things like Sheoldred and Rotting Regisaur that are pretty good versus, speaking of, that are pretty good versus my opponent's removal. I will keep this hand. So the Daze and Force of Will effects are going to be pretty good against me here. See what my opponent has. It is Delver. Okay. I'm sitting here thinking about whether or not I want to jam. I think I want to wait a turn to play around Daze. I think I can afford to do that. I might be fucking wrong. Alright, Delver does not flip. I think just means land with this deck. Another Delver. That's scary. Alright, that is an attack into an opposition agent that I do not have, so I cannot punish that play. Sudden Edict is incredibly strong. Alright. Dark Ritual is 4 total mana. Let's attempt to Dark Ritual again. This is going to be 6 total mana, so I can play Sheoldred followed by Sudden Edict, which I'm very much into. Okay, there is a fetch and a Brainstorm, so they don't have the counterspell yet. Are we resolving? Oh shit, we just resolved a Sheoldred. Oh, but my opponent might just, might have just put a fucking Thunderous Wrath back on top of their deck, and that can kill my Sheoldred. That would be really annoying if that happens. Smash to smithereens. Not this time, Delver. Not this time. Okay, yeah, this is straight up, like, Prowess Burn. Chain Lightning targeting Sheoldred. You have another one. No, but this does allow them to get 2 more points of damage in. Okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna trade here. This Sheoldred is worth so much right now. Alright, I'm at 14. Which is really 16, because I'm about to draw a card here. My opponent has Smash to Smithereens and 1 unknown card. I am not going to play around their last card, being Daze. I'm just going to cast this. Oh my god, things actually fucking worked for a change. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Alright. Opponent is at 12. I have a Gargantuan blocker and a Stellar clock. Yeah, I'll take my 3. I think I'm good. I will discard the Chrome Mox as to not give my opponent a Smash to Smithereens target. Okay. All good over here. This requires a chump block from my opponent. Back for 11. Alright, there is the chump block on Rotting Regisaur. That puts my opponent to 6. I am not going to play Urborg because of Price of Progress. Like, the finish line is in sight here. I just have to dodge some amount of absolute nonsense here. Alright, the Delver has been held back. We'll discard Chrome Mox again. No Smash to Smithereens target from my opponent. Oh, Skullcrack. Wild. Guard Chrome Mox. I technically gain 2 life, but Skullcrack stops that. And I believe this is my swing for lethal, unless opponent has, like, Chain of Vapor. Or not Chain of Vapor, it would be the one that causes 1 life loss. Holy shit. We did it. We 5-0'd with Braids in Legacy. Okay. Overall thoughts on the deck list. In round 1, Braids did some work. And conceptually, Braids is fine in some matchups. However, what I was finding is that based on the angles of attacks that I wanted for the post-sideboard games, this plan was just better than the Braids Bitterblossom plan. Now, like, what does that mean, generally speaking? Does that mean it is a mistake to do the Braids plan? Or does that mean in game 1 it's okay for me to be aggro, because if I need to, I can flip the switch to combo in post-sideboard games? And without playing more games, I don't know for sure. I feel like Braids slash Bitterblossom were the weakest portion of the deck. But if I was playing versus a control deck, especially one that didn't have Uro for like life gain, like turning a dead Chrome Mox or all of those extra lands into just, you know, baby like Lightning Helix that draws a card is like very much not bad. And it's possible that I underrated Braids in some of the matches as well. This was a time where like I didn't necessarily draw this card enough in game 1 to get a feeling for how good it was. And in some of those games where I flooded out or like I had multiple Chrome Mox in, like it would have been better than I was probably giving it credit for. I think the deck that I put together is pretty good. It's possible I need 1 or 2 mana sources more than what I have in here. So like we're at 25, 28 if we're counting Dark Ritual, but you know, since some of these are colorless and since some of these require other starting things to be true mana sources, like maybe like this 1 of Opposition Agent should just be 1 more swamp of some nature. I don't know. But definitely feel good about the league, and that was a lot of fun. I want to just end by saying how nice it was to play against that last blue-red Delver deck that just like didn't have Murktide Regent and Expressive Iteration. That was an enjoyable, like a very legitimately enjoyable game of Magic that did not involve me just feeling like I was dead from turn 1. And I'm just throwing it out there for all those times that I talk about bans. Like, that's the difference in gameplay between like a fair Delver deck and what we have right now. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and if you want to mess around with this or get one of your own decks on the video, remember all that information is available in the video description. Have a great rest of the day. See ya!